no interest. Some of these people recorded these things not because they wanted to keep it as history documents. Some were just maybe messages or a description of routes. In case the sailors, other sailors from Europe wanted to visit this part of Africa. So they were not actually documented as history. But today, of course, we take them as history work. So these people actually had no personal interest while they were documenting these things. But somehow they wrote about these kingdoms, Benin kingdoms, or your kingdom, Ketu, and so many other places, but you will never find Ile-Ife. Not even the British who created them wrote about them before their creation. How come? How come? But as at that time, we were meant to believe all of these things, that we came from Ile-Ife. You see these, they are urchins, these Ife-centric e-professors running around social media, distorting everything. One of the excuses that they give is that as at the time, Europeans could not write about Ile-Ife because it was far interland. It was far interland, meaning it was too hidden. It was too hidden. So they are saying that Ile-Ife was just at the end of West Africa. The Europeans could not get there. Whereas kingdoms around the Ile-Ife, kingdoms that existed around Ile-Ife were recorded. But somehow these people are claiming that Ile-Ife was too hidden. So I don't know how hidden it was, how they managed to hide Ile-Ife in their pockets or their bags, that kingdoms around them were written about, but not Ile-Ife.
Thanks for clicking on this channel. Please subscribe to FO's blog history, and click on the notification button so that whenever we upload a new video you will be notified. The present Ife in Osun state was created by the British. The original Ife is in Kogi state. According to research and findings, the present Ile-Ife in Osun is not the original Ife, which the Benins called Huhel. The Ife, the Benins knew, is in Kogi state, which they referred to as Huhel. The one in Osun was created by the British to deceive the people. Books written in the 15th and 16th centuries never mentioned the Ife in Osun state, but the one in Kogi state. In fact, no historical books mentioned Ife in Osun state as a place of significant importance. According to Azomo Kakadu, when the British arrived, they wanted power so badly. Still, unfortunately, the Oba of Benin would never betray his kingdom or his people by bowing down to the British. Kingdoms like Benin were bad business for the British. So what they did to Benin was to destroy our monarchy, and destroy our empire, took our power from us, took our land and even our people from us, they separated us, and they imposed this slave system of government run by their slave boys on us, he said. He went further to explain why, and how Ile-Ife was created by the British. From nowhere, a place called Ile-Ife sprang up, and a title was created there, and a title of Uni was created. Before this time, there was a place known to the Edo people as Huhel, which is also known as Ife. It still exists till today in present-day Kogi state. It is recorded that the Edo people drew their spiritual strength from this Huhel or Ife. Now knowing very well the linkage between this Huhel and the Edo people, Benin people, and so many other kingdoms, such as Odo, they had to make a replica or a duplicate of this place, and they gave it a name that is akin to the original one in Kogi state. So, from nowhere, one Ile-Ife, which they like to shorten as Ife, sprang up, and a title was created, he stated. He also said that Ife-centric people disregard history books that are hundreds of years old, because those books contradict their narrative. When you confront them to tell you their history, they begin to tell you tales, moonlight tales. And when you ask them for sources, what do they tell you? 3 things. Number 1, they say, go and check Google. Number 2, they will say Infa Oracle. And last one, they will say, according to archaeological evidence, he declared. Please sit down and watch this intelligent analysis by Azomo Kakadu.
West Africa as we know it today was formerly known or referred to as Guinea. And guess what? The capital of Guinea or West Africa, or the seat of power, was Benin Empire. Yes. But when the British came, 1553, they wanted this power so bad But unfortunately, the Oba of Benin will never betray his kingdom nor his people by bowing down to the British. Kingdoms like Benin were very bad business for the British, so they had to eliminate such kingdoms. So what they did to Benin was to destroy our monarchy, rather destroy our empire, took power from us, took our land and even our people from us. They separated us, and they imposed this slave system of government run by their slave boys on us. And it did not end there. They tried, and they are still trying as we speak, to bury our history, knowing fully well that if Edo people ever know who they are, when Edo people get to know their history, only then will they know their power, and we might rise again. So this is why our bronzes were looted. Our bronzes were a primary source of our history, a primary way by which we recorded our history. They looted them, destroyed our walls, and so many other sources of history for the Benin people. You know, while Benin was still standing, it was impossible for them to capture West Africa, which is why Benin was the last to fall, and immediately Benin fell. That was it for West Africa. It was captured. So power was taken from the owners of power, and then these people began to create kingdoms where there never were kingdoms. They began to create kings where there never were kings. Those who had some cash to throw around or were very loyal to them were made kings in Igbo land, in some parts of Igbo land. Igbo people who never knew what monarchy was. From nowhere, a place called Ile-Ife sprang up. From nowhere. And a title was created there, the title of Oni. Now, understand something. Prior to this time, there is a place known to the Edo people as Uhe, which is also known as Ufe or Ife. It still exists till today. It is recorded that the Edo people drew their spiritual strength from this Uhe or Ife, the original one, located in today's Kogi state. Now, knowing very well the linkage between this Uhe and the Edo people, Benin people, and so many other kingdoms such as Oyo, they had to make a replica or a duplicate of this place, and they gave it a name that is akin to the real one. So, from nowhere, one Ile-Ife, which they like to shorten as Ife, sprang up, and the title was created there. Now, it is possible for them to have made the Oni a king, but they didn't, and that is for a reason. Now, they understood very well that the Ogene of the real Ife, which was known to the Edo people for centuries, was not actually a king. He was not a monarch. He was a spiritual head. So if they had made the Oni of this new Ife a king, there would have been some discrepancy, some confusion. Probably the Edo people would have said, no, we reject this. This is not the Ogene we knew. So they had to make that position that of a priest instead of a king. Now, this was possible for them to do, to destroy our source of history, to create a fake place called Ile-Ife as a replica of the original one. But then arose a problem that they are still trying to fix as we speak. Now here comes a challenge. So Ile-Ife, from nowhere, out of the blues, came into existence automatically. It was never known before, but somehow we started to hear about Ile-Ife. All right. So now the British tells Benin people and say, look, you came from this Ile-Ife. The people like, we don't know Ile-Ife. Say, no, you know Ile-Ife. You dared not say anything. It was not fashionable to contest. It was not fashionable to protest. Or your empire, you came from Ile-Ife. Ijebu, Ketu, all of you, you came from Ile-Ife. And nobody dared say anything. And like I will always say, only God knows how many people stood against this thing and lost their lives. So now, the challenge that they had was this. If you say Ile-Ife, or every kingdom came from Ile-Ife, it means ordinarily that Ile-Ife is older than all of these kingdoms. But the problem is, the historical documents available even as at then contradict this. Because as early as the 15th century, Benin had appeared in international historical document by Portuguese. Around the 17th century, Dapa mentioned Oyo, Ketu, Ijebu, so many other kingdoms, even Owerri, that was not even a kingdom at that time. They were mentioned in history book, but nowhere you will find Ile-Ife. The place that was so great, they say now that it was an empire that was so great that birthed every other kingdom, will never be found in any history book. So even the British, who discovered Benin as late as 1553, could not find Ile-Ife. So you will never find Ile-Ife in any historical record that is earlier than the 19th century. Whereas Ile-Ife's children, Ile-Ife's alleged children like Benin and other kingdoms had appeared in history books as early as 15th century. And the Ile-Ife, the mother of all of these kingdoms, you will never find in any history book before the 19th century. How come? Now, how come that a lot of people who wrote about Benin, a lot of people who wrote about other kingdoms such as Oyo, from different places, the Portuguese, the Dutch, the Germans, different people from different spheres of life, different professions. Some were just travelers, some were historians, some were business people, different people. They all recorded. People who had no interest. Some of these people recorded these things not because they wanted to keep it as history documents. Some were just maybe messages or a description of routes. In case the sailors, other sailors from Europe wanted to visit this part of Africa. So they were not actually documented as history. But today, of course, we take them as history works. So these people actually had no personal interest while they were documenting these things. But somehow they wrote about these kingdoms, Benin kingdoms, Oyo kingdom, Ketu, and so many other places, but you will never find Ile-Ife. Not even the British who created them wrote about them before their creation. How come? But as at that time, we were meant to believe all of these things, that we came from Ile-Ife. You see these, they are urchins, these Ife-centric e-professors running around social media, distorting everything. One of the excuses that they give is that as at the time, Europeans could not write about Ile-Ife because it was far interland. Meaning it was too hidden. So they are saying that Ile-Ife was just at the end of West Africa. The Europeans could not get there. Whereas kingdoms around the Ile-Ife, kingdoms that existed around Ile-Ife were recorded. But somehow these people are claiming that Ile-Ife was too hidden. So I don't know how hidden it was, how they managed to hide Ile-Ife in their pockets or their bags, that kingdoms around them were written about, but not Ile-Ife. I like to refute, just to be fair to these people. Now, one of the primary ways, let's really assume that you were hidden and the Europeans could not write anything about you. You don't have anything documented about you. But one of the primary ways Africa as a whole recorded their history is through folklore. So that in their folk songs, in their folk tales, etc., folklore, their history is always embedded, especially Benin Kingdom. Their history is embedded in their folklore. Take Listen to these ones, for instance.
Ọmọkọ́mọkọ́ ni wà o, àwa kì í ṣọmọ àbí ìdànù. Òde ìbí ní nàbí bàbá àwa sí. Ọba ló bí síbẹ̀ kì í ṣàárẹ̀.
Ọmọ ajín kẹ̀kẹ̀rẹ̀ kó kódó, ọmọ asùn kẹ̀kẹ̀rẹ̀ kó kódó, ọmọ ajàgbilẹ̀ ọba bìíní, dó tẹ̀mẹ́, kó yọ ó tẹ̀mẹ́, ọmọ bó bù mí sìn máa bu ẹ̀sìn, máa bẹ̀ràn ọgọ́rùn-ún lára rẹ̀.
Now, those are examples of folklore. Examples of folklore. And you heard the first one from His Imperial Majesty, the Eleko of Eko. Now, this folklore, the folk songs that they just rendered, tell history. Tell the history of Lagos. You see that the history, or part of the history of Lagos, is embedded in the Eko folklore. The folklore of Eko. And this they just rendered can be interpreted historically. So I ask a question. Ile-Ife, is it that you don't also, apart from recording your history on paper, you don't have other sources, other medium by which you recorded your history, such as folklore? Is it that you don't also have folklore? There are no folk songs, there are no folk tales that tell your history. Is it that you don't have, or maybe somehow you have lost your memory or something? Call some of these e-professors, Ife-centric e-professors, and ask them about their history. Maybe just mention out of the list of the Ooni on the website of the Ooni of Ife. Just pick two before the 19th century and ask these people to tell you about this Ooni. They will have absolutely nothing to say. Absolutely nothing to say. So now, this is where the challenge is. The British wants the whole world to believe that Ile-Ife is the birthplace of Yoruba and even humanity. The crown of Benin Empire came from Ile-Ife. The crown of Oyo came from Ile-Ife. To everybody came from Ile-Ife. Ile-Ife that was born yesterday. Ile-Ife that was born yesterday. And they have no historical record to back this up. So, they have the challenge. And how do they intend to solve this problem? One thing I think the British would have done, if it were possible, would have been to collect every historical material, every historical document that was written about Benin, Oyo, and these other kingdoms that they are trying to tie to this Ile-Ife, proud to the 18th century when Ile-Ife was created. They would have retrieved all of these documents and burnt them. Believe me, just to cover up their lies. But of course, you know that is not possible. So what did they have to do? They now tried and are still trying to write Ile-Ife into other people's history, to write Ile-Ife into other people's greatness. And that started by the naming that place Ile-Ife, to make it sound as the original Ife, that is the original Ife, which the Edo people know as Uhe, that is located in the present day Kogi state, in Omala local government. And the second thing they did was, when they placed a ruler there, the ruler, or rather imposed the ruler on the people of that place, they made sure that he was not made a king, instead a priest. And that is to corroborate, that is to make it match with the position of the Ogenenue. Ogenenue was never a king, he was never a monarch, but a spiritual head. So which is why they could not make the Ooni a king, but a priest. See, just to make everything look like the original Ife. Now they started to write. They employed people to write. But none of these things these people will write that will not be trashed by the already existing record, that were already, even as at then, they were already hundreds of years older. So what would an Ife-centric professor write today, that I will take over what was written in the 15th century or in the 16th century? Not possible. Now, they also understood that having these local writers do the job was not enough for them, was not prestigious enough. So this is why they need the services of this very useless and dishonorable professor at Harvard, this Professor Susan Preston Blair, who has been trying her best to write Ile-Ife and the Ooni of Ife into old history. She has attempted to automatically change Ooni of Ife to the king of Organa. The king of Organa, who is represented in the Catalan Atlas. And you see these Ife-centric retards online who are distorting history, who are going to Wikipedia and other sites to write lies. When they wanted to edit the page of the Rey of Organa, King of Organa on Wikipedia, it is the work of this Preston Susan Blair they used. All they needed was for her to write that work. And as we speak till today, on the page of the Rey of Organa or Catalan Atlas, when you go to the part of Rey of Organa, Rey de Organa, that is King of Organa, you will see Ooni of Ife there, done or perpetrated by his Hutchins. This woman has tried, she has tried her best to convert the Ooni of Ife to Ife to Yufi, as represented in Ibn Battuta's account. She is trying her best, and probably don't be surprised. Maybe next year a book will come out where she will try to convert Ooni of Ife to one of the pharaohs of Egypt or Old Kemet. Don't be surprised.
And they now came up with a crown from Oduduwa, and they now took it to Kemet, and from Kemet they took it to Egypt, and that's how pharaohs in Egypt emerged.
This woman here, Preston Susan Blair. That is why this non-living thing here, an acclaimed professor, he is a professor. That is why he could actually write a book and pull the mask, Benin mask, that every child, everybody in the world knows as Benin mask. The Idia mask, the mask of our first Queen Mother, that was used in the celebration to represent Festac in 1977. This man, a professor, wrote a book and put this mask and labeled it the head of a Yoruba king. Now you begin to ask yourself, is it that he doesn't know? A professor does not know this mask? You think he doesn't know? They know exactly what they are doing. They know exactly what they are doing. So there is nothing they will try to write today. There is nothing they will try to pen down. No lie will they try to pen down that will not be trashed by age-long historical records. History books that are hundreds of years old, they must contradict them. And we will use such to debunk whatever it is they are writing now. Now, that is why when you walk up to an Ife-centric person, those who are carrying Ife without evidence, ask them to tell you their history. They begin to tell you tales, moonlight tales. Moonlight tales. And when you ask them for sources, what do they tell you? 3 things. Number 1, they say go and check Google. Go and check Google. Number 2, they will say Ifa. Ifa. And the last one, they will say according to archaeological evidence. Google is not a source in itself. Google is not a source in itself. I mean, Google is not a reference point. You cannot reference Google. Google is a search engine. It's a search machine. What Google does is, if you're looking for something online, you go to Google, type what you're looking for. Google will link you to where you will find information on what you're looking for. It does not mean that those websites or domains that Google link you to can be trusted. Any website, anybody that has said anything about what you're looking for, Google will link you there. And any bozo can do anything. Any bozo can put anything on the internet. So when these people tell you, go to Google, go and check, they tell you, Gbogbo Diri lasted for 6,000 years. And you say, how did you come about this? Where is your evidence? They say, go and check Google. It sounds so stupid and so dumb. As of 2025, you give an historical account and somebody asks you for evidence, you are referring the person to Google. As stupid as they might be, they know exactly what they are doing. The reason they refer you to Google is because they know what they have done online. These people have created websites to publicize their lies, lies that will back up their propaganda. They have gone to existing websites to edit information there just to suit the lies. Now, the worst of all is Wikipedia. Wikipedia, which I now consider the most useless domain online. I used to love and trust Wikipedia. It is these Ife-centric people who made me understand that it is the worst. Anybody can go there and edit anything. Go and look at what these Ife people, Ife-centric retards, have done with Wikipedia. They have distorted, they have doctored everybody's history. They force themselves in there. So if you are still one of those who bank on Wikipedia when you're looking for information, especially when it concerns history of the whole of West Africa, I'm very sorry, I cannot say sorry. Don't do it. Don't do it. Yes, one of the historical sources of these Ife-centric people is Ifa. When they tell you something and you ask them, you were not there, I wasn't there. So how did you get to know about this? Bobo Diri, an Ooni, an acclaimed Ooni, lived for 6,000 years. He said, how did you know about this? He said, go and ask Ifa. Now, for those who don't know Ifa, Edo people, Ifa is the same as Iha, the Iha that we have. It just change in language, so to say, difference in language. Ifa is a divination or divinity. Divinity. You see, when those, maybe you see movies where you go to a babalawo and they begin to throw either okbele or whatever, or kola nut, they begin to throw to make some divinity, to check some things. That is Ifa. So, what these people mean is, for me to know their history, if they tell me that there was, that the Ooni, the second Ooni who lived before the mother of Jesus Christ was born, actually gave birth to the Pharaoh of Egypt. I say, how did you know about this? They say, it is in Ifa. So what that means is, I have to look for a babalawo in Ile-Ife to go and meet and say, sir, I want to check something, Baba. He said, what do you want to check? I said, there is an historical account that I want to check. Please help me check it. Then they will not give me the thing. I will not say, did the Ooni of Ife, second Ooni of Ife, give birth to the Pharaoh of Egypt? Shame. Then they will not throw it. They will not say yes or no. That is your source of history. That is your source of history. And you still there without shame. You still dare to open your mouth in 2025 and tell somebody that your source of historical account is Ifa. Ifa. So Odun Ifa. In the whole world, with the little I have read, I don't know much, I'm still learning. With the little I have read, the little historical accounts I've read about different people, in the whole world, Ife, Ile-Ife or Ife-centric people are the only set of people who will refer you to Ifa, who will use divination, oracle, babalawo to buttress historical accounts. Meet Oyo people. Oyo people will tell you their history. If you ask them where they got it, they will give you a source, either a book or maybe present some source somehow. Ijebu will tell you, Urobo people, they say this is where we come from. They will show you. But Ile-Ife people, when they say theirs and you ask them, they will say, go and meet Babalawo, go and throw your fear. It's a shame. It's a shame.